Beyond the mirror. When Ezgi placed the large antique mirror in the corner of her room, she thought it was just a beautiful vintage decoration. There was a faint Latin inscription carved into the top, but she didn't pay much attention. Old, mysterious, and cheap, she thought. Perfect. The first night passed without anything unusual, but on the second night, as she lay in bed, she caught a flicker of movement from the corner of her eye. She sat up and looked at the mirror. Her reflection stared back. Normal. But just as she turned away, she noticed something strange. The reflection lingered a second longer than it should have. The next day, as she wiped the dust off the frame, the Latin inscription caught her eye again. Speculum veritas non refer, said transit. She typed it into her phone. The mirror does not reflect the truth. It allows passage. A chill ran down her spine. That's just nonsense, she muttered. It's just a mirror. But that night, everything changed. As she lay in bed, she felt a cold breeze brush across her face. The windows were shut. She opened her eyes slightly and saw fog on the mirror's surface. Fingerprints appeared on the glass, as if someone was touching it from the inside. Heart racing, she got up and turned on the light. The prints were gone. She reached out. The glass felt like water. Her fingertips sank into it slightly before she pulled back in shock. The mirror rippled gently and returned to normal. She didn't sleep that night. When she returned home from work the next evening, she noticed things in her room had moved. A few of her books were now stacked in front of the mirror. And in the mirror, her reflection wasn't right. It looked like her, but the eyes were empty, lifeless. She took a step back in fear. The figure in the mirror took a step forward. Ezgi turned and fled the room, shutting the door behind her. She spent the rest of the night curled up on the couch, lights on. The next morning, she found a message written in the condensation on the mirror's surface. It's your turn. Terrified, she rushed to a university library and began researching. She found old legends, folklore about mirrors as gateways to other realms. Some were said to be portals that allowed things to cross over. She realized her mirror might be one of them. That night, she waited in front of the mirror. At 3 a.m., and it began to ripple again. But this time, something stepped out. It was her. Same face, same clothes, same scar on her wrist. But the eyes were still empty. Ezgi barely had time to react before the other lunged at her. They struggled violently. A scream. The sound of glass shattering. The next morning, the police arrived after a neighbor reported strange noises. They found a woman sitting calmly in the room. She smiled and said, "Just a bad dream. Everything's fine." They believed her. But if someone had looked closely at the mirror, just for a second, they might have seen a pair of terrified eyes staring out, begging for help. Ezgi was still inside. The mirror on the 7th floor, Lale thought she'd find peace in her new apartment. Quiet, old, and charming, with a nice view of the city. The only odd thing was the tall mirror at the end of the hallway on the 7th floor. It stood directly across from the elevator, embedded in the wall. The glass was slightly tarnished and the frame was rusted. The building manager told her it couldn't be moved. It's like part of the structure now. Nobody's been able to take it down. Just an old thing. Don't worry about it. The first week was quiet, until one night Lale noticed something strange. Her reflection didn't move in sync with her. It was subtle, just a second of delay. She shrugged it off as sleepiness, but it kept happening. Each night when she passed the mirror, her reflection hesitated. It was like it was thinking before copying her. She began waking up at night to soft tapping sounds coming from the hallway, always from the mirror's direction. One night, unable to take it anymore, she opened her door and stepped into the dimly lit corridor. No one was there, but the mirror. Her reflection was missing. Instead, a woman stood inside the mirror, back turned, long hair hanging loosely. The woman slowly began to turn her head, revealing just the edge of her pale cheek. Lale blinked, and the woman was gone. Her reflection returned, just as it should be. But after that night, there was always a shadow in the mirror, hiding, watching. Disturbed, Lale spoke to her elderly neighbor, Mrs. Nekla. "That mirror, have you ever noticed anything strange?" Mrs. Nekla looked away and lowered her voice. "That mirror came from another building, burned down years ago. Everyone died except the mirror. It was untouched. They brought it here. Since then, no one lasts long on the 7th floor. The fear settled in Lale's stomach like a stone. She searched through old newspapers and found an article. Before the fire, a young woman had disappeared in that same building. Her body was never found. The woman in the mirror. It had to be her. One night at exactly 3 a.m., Lale stood in front of the mirror. Her eyes were bloodshot from lack of sleep. "What do you want from me?" she whispered. No answer, but the reflection looked down, then took a step back. In the hallway inside the mirror, it wasn't her hallway anymore. The walls were scorched, the floor covered in ash. It was a hallway from another world. Lale reached out. Her fingers slipped through the glass like it was water. Then a cold hand grabbed hers from the other side and pulled. There was no time to scream. The hallway was silent again. The next morning, neighbors noticed Lale was missing. The door to her apartment was locked. Nothing was out of place. She was simply gone. And in the old mirror at the end of the hallway, if you looked closely enough, you could see the faint outline of a face. Crying, watching, trapped. No one lives on the 7th floor anymore, but the mirror is still there. And every night at 3 a.m., the reflection takes one more step forward. The mirror room, 600 words. When Daniel inherited his grandfather's countryside estate, he never expected to discover something forbidden. The house was vast and old, filled with antique furniture and dusty memories. But nothing was stranger than the locked door at the end of the 2nd floor hallway. The door was thick and iron-handled, with no label or markings, just a single scratch across its center, as if something had tried to claw its way out. The key was found tucked inside a Bible, sealed with wax, and a note from his grandfather. Never open the mirror room. Of course, Daniel opened it. The room inside was windowless, cold. Every wall was covered with mirrors. Large, small, circular, cracked, pristine. Some looked centuries old. Others seemed oddly modern. The air felt heavy as he stepped in. Every mirror showed his reflection. But something felt off. The angles didn't match. Some showed his back when he faced them. Others blinked out of sync. One mirror directly across from the door had no reflection at all. Daniel froze. He waved at it. Nothing. Then he turned to leave, and caught movement from the corner of his eye. His reflection in the far left mirror was still waving, slow, delayed. Then it stopped and smiled. Even though Daniel was no longer smiling, he slammed the door shut, locked it, and stumbled back to his room. All night he couldn't sleep. The air felt colder. His bedroom mirror began to fog from the inside. And just before dawn, he saw it, a handprint pressed against the glass. The next morning, Daniel found the mirror room door wide open. Inside, a single mirror had fallen off the wall. It lay face down, but when he lifted it, he didn't see his reflection. He saw a long hallway lined with doors. One of them slowly opened. Terrified, he searched the house and found his grandfather's old journals. One entry, dated 1973, read, "I bought the mirrors from a monastery in Romania. They said each one was a gate, a veil between here and something else. I thought I could contain them, but something got through. She doesn't want to leave. She wants to trade places." That night, Daniel covered every mirror in the house. Sheets, towels, even jackets. But at 3 a.m., he woke to the sound of whispering, dozens of voices, coming from behind the walls. The sheets had fallen. Every mirror was uncovered. In the hallway, his own reflection stood waiting, head tilted, eyes hollow. It beckoned him. Compelled, as if in a trance, Daniel walked into the mirror room. The door slammed shut behind him. The mirrors began to shimmer, warping and shifting. His reflection appeared in every surface, now slightly wrong. Eyes too dark, mouth smiling when it shouldn't. Then one mirror cracked, and she stepped through. A girl soaked in water, hair matted to her face, skin pale like porcelain. She didn't speak, but Daniel felt her voice in his mind. "One stays, one goes." She reached toward him. He tried to run, but the door had vanished. Every mirror now showed the same image. Daniel banging from the inside, screaming silently. In the morning, the house was quiet, empty. The lawyer arrived to check on him, but found no one, except the mirror room, now locked again. Inside, among all the glass, one new mirror stood at the center. And if you stare long enough, you'll see him, trapped, watching, waiting for someone else to open the door.